Hey, if you were anything like me and live in a situation like Kimberly and I do, you have disgusting city water or maybe some hard water coming out of a well. And Kimberly and I have tried everything. We've had two reverse osmosis systems that we've installed in our house, and neither of them did very well. Of course, we kind of cheaped out and bought them off of Amazon. But recently, we decided to bite the bullet and we bought the Water Drop X12. We've been living with it for a couple weeks now. I can't even tell you how happy we are to have good tasting water once again. Water Drop makes all sorts of devices, not just reverse osmosis system. They make all sorts of stuff. But if you are in the market for a system that will make your water taste terrific, give Water Drop a go. They're supporting my channel now, and I deeply appreciate it. Go to gavinfish.com/water drop. Right now, there is a Black Friday sale going on pretty much through December 1st, where you can get up to $700 off. I was able to get $500 off of the X12. So please go to Water Drop through gavinfish.com/water drop or the link below. Thank you, Water Drop, for making this video possible. Now let's get into the video. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. If you like true crime, but you like to cut past all the fluff, all the sensationalism, you found the right place. My name is Gavin, and this is my channel. Thank you very much for being here. Today, do you guys remember this case? Oh my goodness, this was back from March. This is the case of the murder of 27-year-old Veronica Butler and 39-year-old Jilian Kelley. Now, just to give a little bit of a primer on this case, this is basically what happened. These two ladies, Jillian and Veronica, were from Hugoton, Kansas, and they went missing while they were driving through the Oklahoma Panhandle. They were going down to meet her let's say mother-in-law. She wasn't married to this woman's child, but like it's her boyfriend's, the father of her child's mother who had custody of the kids. They were going down to pick up the children for a birthday party. This was March 30th of this year. They went missing. The vehicle was later discovered abandoned on a rural highway in Texas County, Oklahoma, about 11 miles south of Elkhart, Kansas. 5 individuals, Tiffany Adams, who is the grandmother of the children, Tad Cullum, who, if I remember correctly, is Ms. Adams' boyfriend, Cole Twombly, I've heard it pronounced Twombly, but I think it's Twombly, Cora Twombly, and then rounding out the fearsome fivesome is a man named Paul Grice. They were all arrested for the murder of Veronica Butler and Jilian Kelley. Now, what was happening, guys, is Veronica was working to get custody of her children back. Tiffany Adams was not happy about that. She did not want the court to give custody of her grandchildren back to their mother. And they were in this acrimonious battle for custody. And it appears what happened, if you believe the charges, which I do, Tiffany and Tad and Cole and Cora and Paul all conspired to kill Veronica. Now, Jillian was Veronica's pastor's wife. She was a friend from church, and she was there as a court-authorized, what do you call that, chaperone. And it appears that she was caught in the conspiracy. She was completely innocent bystander, and she lost her life. Now, what has happened over the last couple of days is the autopsy report for both of these ladies has been released. If I bring you over here to Acrobat, here is the autopsy report for Jillian. Here is the autopsy report for Veronica. I have gone ahead and I've redacted a couple things here that weren't redacted. I just felt like we don't need to know the home address of Mrs. Kelley's widower and children and so forth. But I've kept, other than that, and I may have missed something, I've kept it pretty much the way it was received. Now, what I want to do tonight is go through the autopsy report. Now, what I don't want to do is be disrespectful to the memory of these two victims, Veronica and Jillian. I don't want to be disrespectful to their families. I don't think that we really need to dig into all of the details of this, but there are some important things that I think that we should go through. And as you guys know, one of the reasons that I do this channel is I want to learn, right? I want to make ourselves safe from would-be criminals, ourselves, our loved ones. We all want to remain nice and safe. And that's why this sort of stuff is important to me. It's not for the shock value. It's not for the, I don't know. I don't know if I can, it's not for the shock value. I'm not into some kind of, like horror porn. I don't like that at all. What I like is to learn about the criminal elements so that we can protect ourselves from them. Now, having said that, I want you guys to know that that doesn't mean that I am blaming these victims. These victims are completely blameless in all this, right? They are victims of horrific crimes. So we're not victim blaming. We're not victim shaming. We're not doing any judgment that would I guess cast shade on our victims. But we do want to learn. So let's go on over to Acrobat here, and give me a second. I've been feeling good, so I didn't grab any cough drops. I don't think I have any here. I probably should, but all right. So the first page is really just the summary report. In fact, the summary was released. This first page was released, and then the other, like the full autopsy report, was released. But basically, at the top, it has all of the data, right? Veronica Claire Butler, 27 years old, white female, and then the location of her death, which was underground. I think the location of death is probably where they found the bodies in Texas County, Oklahoma, in a field. Sorry, guys, give me a second. I really should have a cough drop, but here we go. All right. Yeah, we don't need to go through too much here. All right. So here are the findings for Veronica Butler. Again, this is the mother of the grandchildren of Tiffany Adams, and these are the little human beings that they were arguing over. Tiffany's son was in jail at the time. I mean, there's nothing about this whole situation that is good. It's sad all the way around, but here we go. So for Veronica, first, she was assaulted with a knife. I had wondered about that. I had wondered if she had been shot or something like that, but no, she was assaulted with a knife. To me, that is way more personal, way more, just more personal than, say, being shot with a gun. This is kind of like a Julius Caesar moment as we kind of get into this. All right, so she suffered multiple sharp force trauma with a total of 30 sharp force injuries as follows. To the head and neck, she had 4 incised wounds, including 1 deep to the top and the back of the head with full thickness scalp defects. That means goes all the way to the bone. She had a deep incised wound in the lower central forehead with underlying frontal skull fracture. So maybe that was a, I don't know, like it was sharp force. It wasn't blunt force, but it was maybe stabby, not slicey, right? Number 3, 1 superficial incised wound to the right lateral cheek with skin defect, right? So an incised wound is a cutting wound as opposed to a, well, let's see, actually, yeah, I think, yeah, a stab wound is stabby, an incised wound is slicey. So yeah, I think I was wrong about before. Okay, number 4, stab wound to the left posterolateral upper neck. So posterolateral upper neck with defects to the left internal jugular vein and left pharyngeal oral floor. Oh my goodness. And upper neck muscles with copious associated hemorrhage, including intraesophageal and intragastric hemorrhage. Now, what does that mean? That means that her windpipe and her esophagus, which is the food pipe, were sliced. Number 5, deep incised wound to the left lateral upper neck with defects to the left neck muscles and thyroid. And then number 6, 2 stab wounds to the lower right anterolateral and lateral neck. So stab wounds on this side, on the side and on the anterolateral side. So with defects to the right lower neck muscles, right internal and external jugular veins, right aspect of C5 vertebra and spinal nerve. Wow. So it got into her vertebral column. C5 and C6 spinal cord and intervertebral disc, C6 vertebral body, and upper esophagus with copious associated hemorrhage, including intraesophageal and intragastric hemorrhage. So they went at her. What is that? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 wounds to the head and neck. Again, I think that probably, well, it communicates to me deep anger and a desire to really, really slash and stab at the victim. B, sharp force injuries to the torso. So there are tangential stab wounds and incised wounds to the supraclavicular region of the right superior torso with subcutaneous adipose tissue. I'm probably saying that wrong. So we've got tangential stab wounds and incised wounds. A tangent is something that touches, like if I had a circle, if we were doing, what is that? That would be trig, right? Yeah. Like a tangent is something that is incidental to the main thing, right? So there are some tangential stab wounds and then some incised wounds up here in the supraclavicular region, up in here, the right superior torso, the upper torso. 2 tangential stab wounds to the top of the right shoulder with defects in the subcutaneous adipose, how do you say it? Adipose? I don't even know how to say that word, tissue. Okay, and then 1 stab wound to the right upper back with also the same under the skin defects in that tissue. Okay, number C, sharp force injuries to the extremities. Let's not forget who we're talking about here. This is our victim, Veronica Butler. Okay, she has 6 defensive type incisional wounds to the right second, and fifth fingers with defects to the underlying muscles and soft tissues with partial disarticulation of the right middle proximal interphalangeal joint. So one of those fingers was almost cut off is kind of what I'm getting there, but it's the right hand, the second and fifth fingers. I think that's how they number them. I'm not sure. It might be the second. Sorry. It might be the second and fifth, or it's the second and fifth. I think it's this. I think it's her index finger and her pinky. I think. Number 2, superficial defensive type incised wound to the left proximal forearm skin. Number 3, a defensive type incised wound to the left wrist with defects to the underlying muscle. So the difference between superficial and like the one superficial to her arm really just was to her skin, but the one to her wrist cut the underlying muscles and soft tissues. And then 2 defensive type incised wounds to the tips of the left third and fifth fingers. So I think that would be wrong one. I think it would be this one and her pinky. I think I might be wrong, guys. I probably am. We'll have to look it up later. But 2 of her fingers with defects to the underlying muscles, soft tissues, and bones. So far we've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 defensive wounds. And then we've got a stab wound to the left anterior thigh with defects to the subcutaneous tissue. I'm not even going to try that word. And then superficial incised wound to the left medial thigh skin. It's continued on the next page. We're not done. Okay, number 2, single blunt force injury to the top of the back of the head. Single full thickness scalp laceration with surrounding hemorrhage and no underlying skull fracture. Possible stun gun marks to the posterior lower neck, upper back. Early to moderate petrifactive decomposition changes. I'm very, very sorry, guys. And then obesity. So she was a little overweight. And they have to, I mean, that is not, that is a scientific notation. It's a finding, right? They're not making a comment. There's no commentary about it. Okay. All right. Maybe that's a good time to just check in on y'all's, what you guys are saying here. Let me bring up chat real quick. And I'm sure you guys are going to teach me about the right fingers. Let's go. Oh, PJ Tyler. Thank you very much for the super chat. When do all those misfits go on trial? I have not seen any announcement about that. I'm sure that there is some kind of trial date set, but whether or not they will get to trial on that date is very unlikely in the beginning here. This just happened in March, and I know that it feels like it's a long time between March and November, but in legal terms, in law years, pardon that pun, it's not very long. So thank you, PJ, for the, thank you for the super chat. Thank you very much. Let's see. Gavin, this isn't one of those tabloid true crime channels. That's why we're here. That is true. We try to stick with the facts here. Kathy saying this is sad and horrific. It really is. It really is. Yeah, guys, I don't know how. I just saw this comment from Da Vinci. Da Vinsky. Imagine you're seeing your esophagus. I don't know how many of you have spent time looking at autopsy photos. It takes a very special person, I think, to be able to do autopsies and not only do them, but then be a good witness, an expert witness when the trial comes. Here in Western Pennsylvania, there used to be a doctor named Dr. Eric Vey. He retired just earlier this year, and he served like 19 counties in Western Pennsylvania. He was so thorough about everything, and when he came to testify in court, it was always really, really well done. But yeah, I have seen esophagus. I've seen all this sort of stuff because they really do dig in and look for all of the findings of what possibly could have happened in order for prosecutors to later be able to tell the jury the story that the evidence shows. But yeah, I mean, it is that they went after her for sure. Yeah. ASB 412, that was a violent attack. Terrible. I am a Doctor Who fan, but I can't, you know what? This is what we're going to do, guys. This is what we're going to do. How to pronounce. Here we go. Oh, is it just adipose?
Adipose.
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 Adipose. Okay, I got it. I'm a Doctor Who fan, but I don't remember that being... you know what? In fairness, I pretty much stopped watching at the end of Matt Smith. But anyway. Mia Spaghetti, Gavin, adipose tissue, saying it correctly, superficial. Okay, thank you. You guys are taking care of me, man. Thank you very much. It's sometimes I overthink things. I'm like, is this a Latin word or of Greek origin? Were these the Normans that came up with it? I overthink it. So thank you very much. Let's see if there's anything else that came in. Yes. Jesse, Gavin, finally haven't caught a live in so long. I've been following you since 40,000 subs. Well, thank you very much. Hey, now is a good time. Guys, today I'm going to be doing, speaking of catching a live, I'm going to be doing 2 lives tonight. So as soon as we're done covering Veronica and Jillian's horrible case, there's some news, as a lot of you already know, in the Hana Kobayashi case. And she's still missing too. So I'm going to go back to that later tonight. So stick around. Okay. All right. Let's bring Veronica back up. North Carolina nurse. I knew you'd take care of me. Thumb is the first finger. Second is index, etc. Thank you very much. All right. I learned so much from you guys. I really do. It's awesome. You guys are amazing. Okay. Let's go back to Acrobat. We're going to read the case summary and opinion. Now, most of the case summary is pretty similar on both of them. So we're probably, I think actually what we should do next, let's go over to Jillian's real quick and take a look at hers. Okay. So I think Veronica had something like 30 sharp force injuries. Jillian had 16, which is not a little for sure, but maybe is an indication that she was not the prime target, though maybe there was some hatred towards her for being there as a guardian ad litem, as you said, Zach, as a chaperone. There certainly were. You know what? Real quick, I need to remember, I want to show you guys something when we get to the stun gun, okay? All right, so 16 sharp force injuries to Jillian. On the head and neck, there's a cluster of 9 sharp force injuries, 7 stab wounds, and 2 incised wounds to the posterior head and posterior neck. So they went after her from behind with defects to the posterior scalp and neck skin, soft tissues and muscles, tongue base, left internal jugular vein, posterior occipital skull, and cervical spine and spinal cord with multiple fractured cervical vertebra and multiple spinal cord injuries, including a possible complete transection of the upper cervical spinal cord at its junction with the brainstem. Violent, man. Oh my goodness, that is just violent. The next thing says a stab wound to the upper lateral cheek to the right upper lateral cheek with defects on the underlying muscles and soft tissues, right zygomatic arch, right basal temporal skull and brain, the right temporal lobe. There was an incised wound to the left temple with defects to the left temporal skin, soft tissues, muscles, and skull. An incised wound to the left lateral jaw with defects to the skin and subcutaneous adipose tissue. Thank you very much again for teaching me that word. So 9, 10, 11, 12 of her 16 injuries were to her head and neck. Then there were sharp force injuries to her left shoulder. Superficial incised wound to the top of the left shoulder with defect to the skin. A stab wound to the posterior left shoulder with defects to the underlying muscles and soft tissues. Sharp force injuries to the bilateral hands. She had one defensive type incised wound to the left index finger. That would be finger number 2, North Carolina nurse, right? With defects to the underlying muscles, tendons, bone, and proximal interphalangeal joint. One defensive type incised wound to the base of the right thumb with defects to the underlying muscles, tendons, bone, and metacarpophalangeal joint. I think that's my biology is not super strong, guys. I'm trying to remember anatomy, really. It's not super strong, but base of the thumb. Possible stun gun marks to the back of the neck and posterior left shoulder. This is reminding me of another case. And what I'm going to do, let me bring up my website for you guys. And bring it up here. And let's go to cases over here. And we're going to scroll down pretty much to the bottom. And it's this case, Amanda Winkowski. So Amanda's case was the first case that I really dug into. Is the first time I ever saw autopsy photos. First time I read an autopsy report or a police report was the Amanda Winkowski case. So it sticks out to me quite a lot. The medical examiner in Amanda's case did not note any type of stun gun wounds. But if you guys can just bear with me for a second while I look for it. I want to show you what a stun gun wound looks like. I want to be very careful here because one, it's not a pretty sight. 2, actually, let me look at the first autopsy. Give me a second. Okay. Yeah, thanks for bearing with me, guys. I should have had this up already. Ah, crap. Give me a second. Sorry, guys. Dang it. I'm going to have to go back and edit that. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Guys, I apologize for that. I will edit that out as soon as I'm done with the live stream. But these right here are what stun gun wounds look like. They were on Amanda's chin, jaw area. And in her case, the medical examiner didn't even mention them. And so I'm glad that in Jillian's case and in Veronica's case they did. Man, I'm so sorry that I did that, guys. I will edit that out. I'll blur it out. Okay. Really hope that I didn't damage you emotionally anyway in showing you that, even that for that moment. I'm so sorry. Okay. And then she had early to moderate decomp as well. All right. So I'm going to go back to Veronica's and let's read this case summary here. Okay. The case, it says, by the way, you know what I didn't do is let's see who the doctor is here. The medical examiner here is Celia Cobb for Veronica and Celia Cobb for Jillian as well. Okay. In my opinion, says Dr. Cobb, based on the circumstances surrounding death and the findings at autopsy, Veronica Butler died as a result of multiple sharp force trauma consisting of 9 stab wounds and 21 incised wounds, total of 30 sharp force injuries. 10 of the incised wounds were consistent with Ms. Butler having attempted to defend herself, including her having grabbed the knife blade with her right hand, resulting in her fingers being sliced multiple times. She additionally sustained a blunt force laceration to the back of the head. Although possible stun gun marks are observed at the junction of her lower neck with her upper back, the decomposed state of her body limited definitive gross and microscopic confirmation. I actually had a long conversation on this channel with my buddy Kenny, Dr. Clark, and he talked about what it would take to actually confirm that, because there are things that occur in the skin at a cellular level when electricity passes through them. And he described that in great detail on the Amanda Winkowski case. And in Amanda's case, we want to exhume her and have that tested to see if there is a stun gun, because if there is, they could prove murder, right? So far, they say it was an accidental overdose. Okay, anyway, after having been fatally attacked, Veronica Butler was then deliberately concealed inside a sealed freezer along with the body of Jilian Kelley. The freezer was then buried 4.5 to 8 feet below ground and covered with a large concrete slab. Underneath the freezer were additionally buried clothing, a stun gun, a roll of tape, and a knife, all of which were collected on scene as evidence by the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. Given the extent of Ms. Butler's injuries, including defects to both of her internal jugular veins with resultant exsanguination, that means she bled out, it is my opinion that her death was very quick and likely occurred before she was placed inside the freezer and buried, which at least that is a mercy. This opinion is additionally supported by the fact that her body appeared to have remained exactly how it was placed inside the freezer. The manner of death is homicide. And then let's look at the case summary here. In my opinion, says Dr. Cobb, about Jillian, based on the circumstances surrounding death and the findings at autopsy, Jilian Kelley died as a result of multiple sharp force trauma consisting of 9 stab wounds and 7 incised wounds, 16 total sharp force injuries. 2 of the incised wounds were consistent with Mrs. Kelley having attempted to defend herself with incised wounds to her left index finger and right thumb. Although possible stun gun marks were observed on the back of her neck and posterior left shoulder, the decomposed state of her body limited definitive gross and microscopic confirmation. After having been fatally attacked, Jilian Kelley was then deliberately concealed inside the freezer, and so on and so forth. Given the nature of Mrs. Kelley's injuries, including a devastating upper cervical spinal cord injury, it is my opinion that her death was very rapid. What did she describe over here? Very quick and very rapid over here, as she would have likely not only lost her ability to move her body below her head, but also her ability to breathe on her own. It is my opinion, therefore, that she was most likely deceased before she was placed in the freezer. The manner of death is homicide. All right, that is a good time for us to go over to your comments here, guys. And man, I am really sorry that I did that. I really hope that I didn't affect anybody in a way that would cause, hurt. Gosh, I'm really disappointed in myself. Okay. Sean B says, Gavin, imagine that these poor ladies, Veronica and Jillian, fought with their lives against these evil people. I hope and pray that they will get justice that they deserve. I do too. What is this? Peppermint says, I'm so glad to know that Gavin has more YouTube subscribers than Aiden and Ernie. Is that Turtle Boy? Is that who that is? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Donna Dwyer, Amanda's case is when I found you. Anniversary of the day she went missing is coming up on December 5th. You're good, Gavin. Yeah, I and thank you. 2915, thank you very much. I will edit that out. And really, Amanda's mom has never seen those photos, and she's given me permission to show them closely cropped up. But I don't want her to see it. So I'm going to very, very quickly, when we're done here, edit that out. And thank you for your, thank you for extending me that grace, everybody. I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate the grace, guys. Thanks so much. Let's see. Mooney says, luckily, these yahoos were not smart criminals and buried evidence with the victims. Yeah. There was nothing bright about these people, and I want to show them. Like, just look at them. Nothing bright about these people. This is Tiffany Adams, 54 years old. This guy, Tad Cullum, 43. He's 6 years younger than I am. Cole Twombly, Cora Twombly, Paul Grice. It does seem like maybe they surrounded them. There were people from behind, maybe at the exact same time, hit them both with a stun gun at the exact same time. Maybe. And then proceeded to horrifically murder them. But yeah, Mooney, I agree with you. Not the brightest people ever. Gavin, wouldn't the freezer act to preserve the remains somewhat? Well, I don't think the freezer was on, PJ. Now, it was underground, right? But the only thing that's going to hold back decomp is cold. Like, in fact, in the Amanda Winkowski case, she was frozen solid. That's why those wounds were so easily seen, right? So maybe there would be somewhat of a preservation. It's cool underground, maybe. I don't know. Wow. It's just these poor women, man. And why do I have his? I want her picture up here. I'm sorry. Yeah, and thank you, Winona. Thank you all for being so kind to me there. Michael, Harrison, Gavin, these statements are really horrific. I actually find it incomprehensible that these kinds of people live among us. Yeah, I mean, it speaks to the anger, right? Like, you guys know that I grew up in rural country, at least until we moved to California when I was a kid, and went back there all the time. I was on and around farms and ranches all the time in my growing up years. And so I am acquainted with death when it comes to animals for the purpose of farming or hunting. I'm very well acquainted with it. But even those who enjoy hunting, for example. Like they enjoy the kill. And I was out in the woods recently with a guy showing me some state game lands. So, I mean, there are people that enjoy the kill of an animal. They enjoy the hunt, but they respect the animal enough and they love the animal enough to do it as quickly as possible, as humanely as possible. They're not out there trying to cause hurt, right? What happened to Veronica and Jillian, this was anger and this was evil. This was, as you said, Michael, horrific. The attack that these women suffered by the hands of 5 people. Just terrible. And it's hard to even imagine that there are people out there like that. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you everybody who is, who was kind to me on that one. I really appreciate you guys being nice about that. I can't believe I did that. PJ, thank you very much for gifting a membership. I'm thank you for supporting my channel that way. Appreciate that. Zach says each of the fearsome fivesome looks like one cliche after another, especially Mom and Pa. They do. They look like the Gogans. I don't even know if you guys would know what that reference is, but they look like the Gogans. They are. You guys, I grew up on Disney movies, man. So there's a movie from the 70s called Pete's Dragon, and these are the Gogans, man. They are just, especially Ma and Pa, indeed. He's went this way. He's went that way. He's up a tree. Yeah, Zach, you're absolutely correct. Mooney also gifted a membership. Thank you very much, Mooney. I appreciate that. Yeah, Peppermint. So the motive in the case, is the children, Veronica's children. Tiffany had custody of the kids. Veronica did not have custody of her own children, which I think that we can infer that there were issues. There were issues at home. No judgment on them because there are issues everywhere and people struggle with all sorts of different things. But Tiffany had custody of the kids because her son was in jail. And Veronica was fighting hard and it looked like she was getting very close to getting custody of her children back. And Tiffany just couldn't handle that. And so she hatched a harebrained scheme to kill Veronica. Her first scheme was to drive in front of her and accidentally drop an anvil into her windshield. That, like Wile E. Coyote style. That's how bright this woman is. And then, like, all this is coming back to me now. Like, they went and bought burner phones, but they did it at Walmart. They did it with like cameras everywhere. And they like used the phones. Investigators were able to track them based on their burner phones. They were able to find out, so much just because of the idiocy of the fearsome fivesome here. They're just, we should just call them the Gogans. I'm going to call them the Gogans from now on. Because of the Gogans, idiots, just because of their moronic nature, police were able to solve this case. And I am grateful that they could. So this whole thing is just maddening, especially Jillian, man. Oh my goodness. Pastor's wife and mom. And she's just a beautiful woman. And she was doing a service to her friend Veronica. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it blows my mind, says Robin, that these 5 people thought they were the best option to raise their grandchildren, so they decided to kill a couple of people. Never makes sense. I don't understand what the other 4 goofs had to deal with it or why. Oh, as I remember, they were part of like a like super prepper, anti-government kind of a group, almost like a religious order that they had started. And I think they just conspired with one another. And I think that when people get together and start to complain and start to share their woes and all that, it gets other people riled up. And I mean, that can happen on a macro scale, right? On a national or worldwide scale. Crying out loud, like Hitler's a really good example of, like, beat this constant drumbeat of the world didn't treat us fairly post World War One, and he got otherwise like normal people to do some of the most horrific things in history. Mussolini was able to do the same thing, but anyway, like that's large scale, right? On a micro level, you can do that in your families and in your friend groups and your churches and stuff. You've got to be very vigilant about being sucked into something like that. And before you know it, you have no idea like why you're angry. You have no idea why you're moved to take action. You just do. We've all got to be very vigilant about that sort of thing. Yeah. And, Winona said it way better than I did and way more pithy. They egged each other on, got caught up in the excitement of it. Yeah, exactly, Winona, exactly. And yeah, it's sick. Yeah, Granny looks like she's got Eileen Wernos energy. She does. Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Zach says, I'm saving this live stream forever to see your excellent acting. No, okay. Were we talking about Pete's Dragon? I don't know. Okay, couple other things, and then we're going to move on. There's one more here. Sean B says, Gavin, those murderers look like the hills have eyes types of people. Yeah, they really do. They really do. Okay, let's head on back. I need a drink of my delicious water. Oh my goodness. I can't tell you how grateful I am to have good tasting water again in the house, guys. We were weekly going to a local spring to get spring water, going through the whole process of filtering it and making it safe for our family. And we were doing that every week while we were trying to figure out what to do with the old RO system. And finally bit the bullet and got the good thing. It's great. Okay. I don't think I'm going to read this whole thing, but, let's go to Veronica's real quick. Circumstances of death. According to investigator and forensic anthropology reports. Oh, so they did forensic anthropology here, guys. That's bones stuff, right? The decedent, Veronica Butler, was a 27-year-old female who had been reported missing along with Jilian Kelley since March 30th, 2024. Both women were found on April 14th, 2024 within a large sealed freezer, 54 inches long by 27 wide and 35 high. That's actually not all that big. Well, my desk is 29, so 35. That's not all that big. I was thinking like a big old-timey style deep freeze, but this is like the littler stuff that you can buy at like Costco and stuff. Buried 4.5 to 8 feet below ground. Again, they were on like a dam for a pond, so the terrain wasn't level. In an area of recently disturbed soil consistent with a pit and associated ramp located in a rural pasture in Texas County, Oklahoma. The freezer was tilted backwards somewhat on its posterior inferior edge and kept sealed with yellow ratchet straps. No longer adherent gray tape was additionally noted near the freezer door handle. A large slab of heavy concrete, 92 inches by 60 inches by 8 inches, was lying on top of the anterior aspect of the freezer, laying at an angle and partially supported by the ground. Underneath the freezer were found clothing and other evidentiary items, as Mooney said. These are not the sharpest tacks here, including a stun gun, a roll of tape, and a sheathed knife. The freezer was briefly opened on scene to confirm the presence of two decedents and packaged with proper chain of custody evidence for transport to the Oklahoma City office of the chief medical examiner on the 15th. For identification, they used fingerprints, skin gloves, and blood samples on filter paper are recorded and retained. The body is identified through OSBI fingerprint analysis and visible tattoo photographic comparison by Dr. Celia Cobb. By the way, that reminds me, it's very infrequent that somebody needs to go in and identify a decedent. Typically speaking, just from descriptions, she had this tattoo, she had this birthmark, she had her appendix out. Those sorts of things are enough to identify the body, and then obviously fingerprints and stuff like that. I know we're getting kind of, I don't know that, yeah, I feel like I'm going to make these available on the website for those of you who would like to read it, but I don't feel like we can, I don't feel like we need to. I mean, that's an interesting thing. Like, her sports bra was pulled up, exposing her chest. That to me is an indication of humiliation. They wanted to humiliate her. Maybe once she was already dead. That's just, yeah, I don't. And then, yeah, there are lots of details here that I don't think that I'm really going to get into. I don't think that it is beneficial to our purpose here on the channel, but for the purpose of learning and understanding and reading these sorts of things, I will make it available over on the website at gavinfish.com. Okay. So let's do one last round. I want to see if there's anything else that you guys have to say before we call it a day. While you guys get in your final thoughts here real quick, let me just invite you to head on over to the website anytime. And then if you click on this little button right here, that will take you to the fish tank. We are so close to 3,000 members over at the fish tank. This is a place where on Facebook, we like to talk about all the crimes that we cover here. So please join us over here and, join the group if you want. If, oh my goodness, somebody has posted some more pictures of Maddie. Well, that was nice. Oh my goodness. I love that picture. So, anyway, join us over on the fish tank. And then my website is chock full of information on this case and others. If you go to the cases page, right up at the top there, sorted chronologically, the newest first that I've covered. So this is Veronica and Jillian's page. I will get the case documents uploaded. The case documents are like, my Patreon subscribers are the ones that have full access to all the documents, but I go over them here on YouTube for everybody else. So if you're a patron of mine, you will have access to those documents shortly. And if you're not, if you'd like to consider it, please support me over there on Patreon. And it looks like you guys are all set as far as comments. So that is where we will wrap it up. Now, here in about a half an hour, we are going to be coming back. We're going to be talking about, what do I want to show? We're going to be talking about the missing persons case that is Hana Kobayashi. There's some news on this that is sad, but we also really need to keep focus on the fact that we still have a missing person here. So please join me here in about a half hour. I noticed that Autumn is already on top of that. She's like, hey, everybody come back, which is awesome. Thank you, Autumn, for being an amazing mod. Thank you, Mooney. Thank you, Bree. Thank you. Everybody is here moderating. We'll be back at 9 o'clock. If you're not joining us back at 9 o'clock, I want to give you another heads up. Tomorrow at 7:30 p.m., we are going to be circling back to the Madeline Soto case. I have been on the phone for the last couple of days with several prosecutors and one former prosecutor who have explained to me exactly why Jen Soto might not be charged, which bothers me. So if you're not going to come back to talk about Hannah, please do come back tomorrow at 7:30. With that, guys, I will bid you adieu, and I hope to see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.